Good news, everyone! We saved the bees! The bad news is that we saved the wrong bees. This is actually an enormous problem. You see, flowering plants evolved on Earth somewhere between 130 and 150 million years ago, and that was a giant mistake. Because it was really efficient. It meant that they could spread their genes everywhere, and pollinators would do the work for them. And now 90% of all land plants depend on flowers, which also depend on pollinators. We've been seeing a 1 to 3% decline in total insect biomass on Earth every year. In the last 10 years, we've seen between a 10 and 20% decline in total insect biomass on our planet. So yes, if you were a kid 10 years ago and you remember more insects on your windshield, there are actually less now, demonstrably. No one is entirely sure what the cause of the loss of insects is. However, like all things, it's probably a combination of quite a few things. Habitat loss is a huge one. There's also the use of insecticides. There's also other chemicals that we dump into the environment. Either way, we are losing insects, which we depend on to have a planet. I mean, look, here's how it is. Life will persist, but we may have created a planet that is not suitable for human life, and that would suck. Welcome to Blade Runner, total ecosystem collapse, and we are on the verge of total ecosystem collapse. But back to the bees. There's been a big push to save the honeybees, and that's great because they are very charismatic, but honeybees were never in danger of going extinct because we cultivate them. This is akin to saying that birds are in trouble, so let's just all get chickens. Yes, you probably increased the number of chickens on the planet, but you're not saving pollinators. And yes, we do use honeybees. However, there's a whole lot of the rest of the environment that we need. Also, honeybee populations have increased by about 20% in the last 5 years, and that's fantastic because everyone and their mom is cultivating honeybees in their yard, but we've still seen a massive decline in native pollinators. Many species of pollinators are going entirely extinct globally, and yeah, honeybees are probably gonna do just fine because we grow them, although they too are experiencing colony collapse at ever-increasing numbers. We humans will be fine as far as growing crops. We can use self-pollinating crops. It's going to be a change from what we're usually eating, but we'll survive in terms of pollinators. However, there is a greater problem because we actually need pollinators in order to have a climate. Yes, plants regulate our global ecosystem. They have their own climates. Rainforests have their own climates. If you lose the trees in a rainforest, you just have desert. And that desert also impacts global climate as dust ends up in the air. I don't know how to tell you that we need a global ecosystem in order to have food, but let's just play with that. What would happen if we had a total insect collapse, which, honestly, is not looking all that unlikely given current circumstances. We would probably have smaller little areas of crops that are protected in biodomes. They would not make nearly as much food as we have, so human population would need to be lower, and there's a process it takes to getting human populations lower. It's not good. But there are things that you can do to make pollinators a little happier. What you should really be doing is just having a native garden. I know lawns are a travesty and they're mandated in lots of places, and that's ridiculous. But if you have access to a place where you can have plants, figure out what flowering plants live near you. Perennial or annual, it doesn't matter. That will support the native population. Gosh, something is going to break, and I think it did. It might be me. I might have broken. Follow for more.